kids. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to come to this event. Thank you, Miriam, for all the support. Before I start, I just want to give a disclaimer that what I'm going to give over, this is what worked for me. It not necessarily worked for you. You might not resonate with it for one reason or another. There's no expectation that you will. My goal is to just stimulate a little bit of, thoughts, if it stimulates some kind of interesting discussion afterwards. Great, I'll consider this a success. Okay. It all started 10 years ago when I made Aliyah. And I went to the Bank Leumi in Beit Kerem, and I got to a door that was locked, and I tried to, no matter how hard I pushed, it didn't open. What did I see? This sticker. And it took me a couple of minutes to come to my senses, and Venn diagrams were being built in my head to try to make sense of what's going on. Certain questions started to come up in my mind. For example, what are the bank tellers doing on Monday between the hours of 1 and 4? Right? Is there some kind of cultural, siesta that happens in Israel that I was unaware of? It just didn't make any sense. Right? This is what we're used to. You go to the bank on any day of the week, and you know that it's open between 9 to 5 on working hours. It just makes sense over there, right? So as the days and the months went on, I kind of started to notice other little things that seemed to not be working properly or not as efficiently here in Israel. For example, this little island where you have like a layover while you're crossing the street. The cross lane is just long enough to get you to that little layover island. Halfway, and then the cars start going behind you. They start zooming in front of you. It's terrifying. You're standing in no man's land. Why can't they just make the light a little bit longer so you can take a one-leg journey across the street instead of breaking it up into 2 separate trips? Okay. Time goes on. My brain is just picking out everything that's wrong. What's going on? What's wrong with the design of how this place works? More examples. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you ever buy a package of Israeli tissues and you open up the plastic slit, there isn't the top tissue lined up so the edge is at the slit. It's all the way over to the edge. Compared to Kleenex brand tissues, they've thought of that little detail. So you can easily pluck the top tissue out, starting the roll without having to pull an entire wad of tissues out, right? The Sefach, that ubiquitous blue piece of paper that, who's ever seen such a thing before? In America, you don't have to have a little piece of paper with additional information. You would think that the country that figured out how to shoot down 300 ballistic missiles from Iran would figure out how to put that piece of paper inside the chip in your 2 Zahut card, right? What's the point of that thing? I don't know. Other things, if any of you have kids and you take them to the playground, they have these cool looking sails that are supposed to block the sun and give some shade, but the problem is that in the most important parts of the playground, the slides and the swings, it doesn't cover it. So your kid, you're getting 3rd-degree burns on his legs, when you send the kid down the slide. Why couldn't they just build a circus tent around the top to provide maximal shade and just make things easy? Going to the supermarket. What's up with that? You have a heavy cart, and you try to make a turn, and you're wrestling this way and that way. It's just impossible to make the turn.
You go sideways.
Yeah, you go sideways. In America, they fix the back wheels on the shopping cart because
rocket science.
It makes it easier to make a turn, right? So
Makes it easier to go straight.
Things are. My brain is just going wild. I'm just like, what's going on with this place?
And one day.
It all got me thinking about the concept of a user experience and what makes a particular user experience successful, another user experience not successful. And if you think about specifically what a user experience is, it's there is a particular goal, and then there's a set of steps that is the user experience that gets you from point A to that goal. The degree to which it does that effectively and efficiently is how you measure whether or not it's successful. So again, you have to understand two things. One, what's the goal that's trying to be achieved? And two, then you can measure, are the steps getting me there or not? So I would say that in America, the goal seems to have something to do with getting rid of discomfort, minimizing discomfort, maximizing, happiness or calm. And you see it just beautifully visualized here in this product. That there's no hard pills to swallow here. Even you can just chew your way to calmness and a happy life. So I think you can other things, services that deliver the raw materials prepared, already pre-marinated and pre-chopped to your door. So all you have to do is just put it in the frying pan and no bother with going to the store or chopping vegetables yourself. Amazon even has drones that will literally drop products into your lap so you don't have to do anything uncomfortable. So I'd say, you can kind of look at the founding document of a place and try to understand what's the goal. So life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it seems to be a fitting goal for the United States. The problem is that, happiness is not really something that you can pursue. It's really a byproduct of growth through overcoming challenges and having clarity about what your purpose is and it really also comes from having spaciousness inside of your heart. So for a lot of us, this is kind of, for me in particular, this is really like my experience of the Israeli user experience. It just seems like things just don't work properly. But as long as this is only the case if you don't really know what the goal is. So I'm going to suggest that the goal here in Israel can be neatly summed up by our founding document. So this is a pasuk from the Torah, and it translates into, and you shall make for me a mikdash, a dwelling place, and I will dwell in them. In other words, in you, right? So there's something a little bit strange about that particular sentence, because where exactly are we supposed to make that dwelling place in order that God is supposed to dwell in us? I think it makes sense to say that the heart is a good location. It's been said before that you're supposed to invite that energy into your heart. But heart real estate, it turns out, is even more precious and even more expensive than the most expensive penthouse in Jerusalem. Why? Because a lot of us, for most of us, our hearts look kind of like this. Now, it's not necessarily everyone's heart is exactly like this, but I can guarantee that everyone in this room has some version of this going on. Whether it's more of one or more of the other, there's some things that are, taking up space in there. So the question then becomes, how do we free up that space so that we can get back to something like this? I'm going to suggest that one way to do that is to really utilize and understand this, what I thought was a frustrating user experience in Israel, in order to understand that really it's those things that trigger us the most about life here and the whole process here and everything, that really act like a highlighter, highlighting exactly what it is that's holding us back from having that spaciousness inside of our heart. So, again, how do you judge if the user experience is a success or not? Let's just recap a little bit. I'm making the claim here that in America, the goal is to pursue happiness, minimize discomfort, and that's how the user experience is designed. In Israel, the goal seems to be more about having spaciousness in your heart, so you can invite some divine presence in. And the user experience is really, highlighting that which takes up space and prevents that process from happening. So how does this play out in the real world? This is a headline from literally 2 months ago. Somehow, in the middle of a 2-year war, after one of those terrible attacks on Israel, the entire world hates us, the cost of living is going through the roof, but somehow, here in Israel, we managed to make top 10 happiest places in the entire world, while America sank to its lowest place ever. So, what's going on here? It seems to be some sort of relationship between, either the goal itself is not a truthful or not a, based in reality goal. You have a question? Yes. What's that?
The goal of the United States is not like an intrinsic goal, where Israel is a lot more deep.
That's a good point. Thank you. That's a good point. So either there's like a mismatch between goal and user experience, or the goal itself is not a valid one. And you see kind of the inverse with Israel. It's not necessarily the stated goal to be happy, but the way that the whole system that works out, it ends up that people here are happier somehow than in America, right? Okay. So, a name says a lot about the essence of the thing. So if you break apart Israel, the name really means, straight to El, straight to God. And we see that once you understand what the goal is, so you can see that the Israeli user experience is actually extremely efficient. You see it in the name. It's just straight to God. There are no detours here. The only detour is making the mental error that the goal is supposed to be something else. Or importing the American goal on your Aliyah flights with you over here and trying to superimpose that onto the experience in Israel. So, 10 years ago, I had the beginnings of an article I wanted to write called Israel is Designed for Maximum Frustration. But after spending some time with these thoughts, I realized, really Israel is all about maximizing your growth. And I wanted to say that the beauty of this whole design is that once you release, redeem, or heal one of those things that's taking up that room inside your heart, then the situations that trigger it magically seem to disappear. It's not that you're gonna never encounter a rude bank teller again. It's not that you're ever gonna never encounter bad customer service here. It's just that those situations are gonna trigger you, aggravate you less. Because according to this model that I'm presenting here, the purpose of the rude bank teller is to make you aware of and ultimately heal that which that rudeness triggers inside of you. But once that's done, there's no more reason for the system to keep triggering you in that way. Because the purpose, which is again creating more space, that's been achieved already. So it doesn't make sense to keep on doing something if you already achieved the purpose. The user experience works. When you can confront that same situation that used to trigger you with calmness, compassion, and now maybe even some curiosity thrown in there, that's called growth. That's when you know that God has taken up residence inside your heart. That's called happiness. So just to make this personal, what was it like for me? I tend to focus on the negative, as I related in the beginning part of this presentation. Everything, there's some kind of inner critic that is inwardly focused, is outwardly focused, affecting relationships with spouse, with kids, with friends. And so having this idea helped me to realize that and create a little bit more space inside of my heart. And yeah, that's generally the idea. If there are any brave souls in the audience that want to share something, that happened to them that they thought was frustrating. I don't know, any thoughts or,
Yeah,
yes, please.
I'll jump in.
Sure.
So I understand your